Now, family life in Ireland has always been an important part of our society, but it's facing fierce challenges like never before. And it really is our desire here at Life FM to support families, particularly those who are struggling. But I think anybody within a marriage, as I said earlier, would desire for that marriage to be stronger. You know, we can always build on our marriages, I think. Well, to help us do that, we're starting a new series with Alan Morris. Now, Alan has spent 8 years teaching the Alpha Marriage course. He's run many seminars. He's also involved in National Marriage Week, and he truly has a heart for supporting families and particularly marriages here in Ireland. And joining me on the line is Alan Morris from Alpha Ireland. Good morning, Alan.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, it's great to have you with us today, and I have to say I'm really looking forward to these next few weeks where you are going to bring us through the Alpha Marriage course in some respects.
Yeah. Well, I often say before I do a marriage course, sometimes I bicker with my own wife, and it's the human aspect of marriage and just the dynamics of, relationships and how we deal with them and the messiness of our family and our friends, and it is lovely. It's the colour of life, and that's a powerful thing. And just how we can do that better is maybe what my heart is about, in trying to improve the way we actually communicate and connect with each other as a couple, as a family, as friends. And the marriage course goes through different things like building strong foundations, the art of communication, resolving conflict. I often say conflict is an opportunity of growth. And then there's the power of forgiveness, and how do we forgive? Is that we kind of feel that it's okay to let the person off. That's not what forgiveness is about. So the power of forgiveness, the impact of family, past and present, good sex, and love in action.
Okay.
So that's what the 7-week course goes through. And I often talk, why go on a marriage course? I don't need to go on marriage. My marriage is fine. And a lot of people have that attitude. But something, I often say, well, tell me, do you have a car?
Yeah.
Well, do you get it serviced? Or do you just let it break down and then get it serviced? No, you service it so it runs better and smoothly. And it actually runs well. And in the same ways, do a marriage course. It's not because your marriage is in dire need of work or anything like that. But it does need things. There's little areas that we nitpick at or that we kind of don't do particularly well. And maybe we can improve on that. And that's why go on a marriage course. It can strengthen your marriage.
Yeah, I think that's it really, Alan, isn't it? We could have a very good marriage and, things could be going well. But then we hit times when we all have difficulties, areas maybe that we don't agree on, areas that might cause some conflict. But I think even apart from that, we want to look forward to a time when maybe the kids are gone, you're in retirement, and you really are your partner's best friend and you have a strong marriage, and, that you can look forward to a time when maybe you can spend a little bit more time together and know that you're going to have that strong foundation to build on.
One of the things recently in our courses, we've had a few couples that are maybe married 30, 40 years. And as you say, the kids have left the nest and they're kind of looking at each other. And they're actually in a new stage. Diane, my wife, often says I'm on my fifth or sixth wife because she's evolved and changed so many times over our lifetime together so far. And that's lovely to see change, growing, and looking at how we can do things better. I often say, how do you spell love? Time. We give time to what we love. We give time to the things we love. And we have to look at that. Where do we spend our time and effort and our focus? And the reason why we do the course over 7 weeks is to build a pattern of marriage time together, of actually kind of taking time for the two to come together and connect in a real deep way. And that's to continue after the course. Even though it's a 7-week course, we try to say, look, spend marriage time. I remember this young girl, she was only married relatively young time, and they had 8 children. And she said, on Friday nights, we have our marriage time together. And she planned that time. And sometimes we have to plan that time. Life can go in parallel, couples can go in parallel, and sometimes they don't connect at all. Sometimes they're doing projects that are like getting the children organized, getting work organized, and the couple do not connect. and how do we connect well and deep.
I suppose, Alan, coming back to the beginning, the whole idea of marriage here in Ireland has changed. And I suppose just to get us started, why marriage? Tell us about marriage, why it is important that, we maintain a healthy marriage in today's society.
Well, it is the bedrock of society, and it kind of permeates down through the culture. If we have a strong marriage, then our children are definitely more secure, and we tend to live longer if we've got good marriages as well. And it is kind of the bedrock of society. Mm-hmm. A lot of issues come out of broken marriages and the breakup of kind of society in that structural way. And we have to kind of look at that and how we can actually protect and improve and grow in our marriage and the way we do things. Because like in our society, I think one of the big things that's maybe been kind of missing in our society is commitment. Mm-hmm. Like marriages go through tough times. Yeah. Where do we go with that? How do we, how do we stay together? Will I go and look over the other hill to somewhere that looks greener? You know what I mean? Another person maybe that looks, he's handsome, he's all that sort of thing. Well, one thing I always say is, over that hill, the grass still needs mowing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. We go to another relationship thinking that's going to sort out all our problems, and a lot of times it doesn't.
And I think, Alan, that marriages and couples are facing different struggles maybe to their parents, their grandparents. It's a different generation, so there are different issues that are facing couples are facing within their marriages today. What are some of those?
Well, I read a very good book called Boundaries, and how you have healthy boundaries within your family dynamics, within your parents, your children, and how you kind of keep those boundaries healthy. Mm-hmm. It's not to say you're shutting them out or anything like that, but sometimes, when, often talks in the Bible about leaving and cleaving and going off and but some family dynamics, they might want to come in and fix you. Mm-hmm. And within marriages, and the parents coming in to try and help in a genuine way, but maybe they need to stand back a little bit and not try to fix the other couple. Yeah. It's a lot of couples that have had that problem, and the parents are genuine people trying to genuinely help, but they're maybe making it worse. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard thing to recognize. Mm-hmm. When your loved ones maybe are going through a tough time, how do you help them? What is the correct boundary within that? Yeah.
And maybe they don't understand the issues that are attacking marriages today. There are obviously different issues than they had faced in their marriages when they were younger. Yeah.
Well, finance is always one that we need to kind of keep kind of together. It is a hard thing when your life maybe strips you bare. Maybe you become unemployed. What do you do? Mm-hmm. Does your wife or husband still love you when you've lost your job? I've seen two different people. One, the man lost his business and he committed suicide. Mm. I've seen another who lost his job and he's looking on it in a different way. He's loved by his wife. He feels connected to her, and it's powerful, that example. I tell a story about conditional love. There was a jeweler, and this girl came in and said, "I want to buy a £20,000 ring," just like that. Okay. She had this figure in her mind, €20,000. Wow. And so the lady showed her a ring, and she said, "Yeah, we're going to have this." And so she bought the ring, and the person who was selling the ring said to them, "To be honest, you don't look as if you can afford a £20,000 ring. I'm only going to marry him if he buys me this £20,000 ring." So she says, "Well, we don't actually have the money, so we're going to put it on the mortgage." So that ring is going to cost them €60,000. Wow. I often wonder where that marriage is now. Mm. I often wonder where that marriage is. What are our expectations of our marriage? Well, Anna, when you're going down the line, what was your expectations of marriage? What was my expectations of marriage? Did I have too high an expectation? No, thankfully I didn't, but some people do. I remember another friend of mine who, the wife worshipped her husband, worshipped him. He was, are you looking for the perfect man? He's it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It was like that. And now they're divorced. couldn't hold that up. There has to be reality in all this.
Mm-hmm.
And, we have to, Diane sees me with all my faults, and she still loves me. And that's a powerful thing.
Yeah, I think particularly maybe media has had a huge influence in, bringing up those expectations for us, in the sense of, watching movies where romanticism is just, the romance is incredible. And, it's just these expectations become huge.
Yeah, it's and if you put that up on the pedestal, or put the person up on the pedestal, you just can't hold it up there.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have realistic expectations. And a lot of women go into the relationship, I'm going to fix him. I'm going to fix him.
Yeah.
And, that's maybe not the right attitude to go in. If he doesn't change an iota, are you still going to be happy? And that is something that any couple need to look at when they're getting married. We do the preparation course as well, and you go online separately as a couple, and you answer 140 questions separately. And it's interesting where things haven't met, where discussions haven't been discussed on life. I remember one couple who hadn't even discussed whether they're going to have children before they were getting married.
Yeah.
And one wanted to have children, the other one did.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to discuss these things before you get married than after. Imagine if they got married and then one said, I don't want any children, after they were married. So we need to kind of look at these things.
And that's, that actually does happen. Situations like that do occur.
We put so much into the day, the frills and the frolic, or whatever you like to call of the wedding day. We put so little into the long-term investments of how we deal with conflict, how we deal with our in-laws, outlaws, whatever, how we deal with, raising our children. What about, if we go to church, where's that? And, just being, I often say marriage is like a three-legged race. We're tied together there through marriage, and how we can walk together through it. And sometimes you can be pulling at each other's legs and getting jostled. But if we can flow together and learn how to be in rhythm with each other, it's a wonderful thing.
Alan, I was thinking about, sometimes, the worldview that comes against us within a marriage. And I remember many years ago, I worked in a factory, and Valentine's Day, there were certain married ladies who would get big bunches of flowers, and other married ladies who didn't get anything. And, I often thought at the time, thinking, what kind of pressures does that put on a marriage? If the husband doesn't send the big bunch of flowers to work, what kind of pressures does that put in? And what does it actually even mean? Even those who were getting the flowers, what kind of state was their relationship really in? Was it, it's these kind of, I think there's a lot of
what is our love language? I don't know whether you've ever read the book, The 5 Love Languages.
Yeah.
It talks about the different love languages that we give. And, what is it? There's touch, there's words of affirmation, there's time. Do you know the rest now?
Yeah. There's giving, the giving of gifts and receiving of gifts. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes what we do is we sometimes give our own gift instead of giving the gift that the other person loves. And sometimes women like the gift of flowers, and the men say, oh, that's corny, that's a bit, so they don't give it. But yet maybe it's something they should look at, because maybe that's their love language. And it's sometimes going over into the other person's, if you like, the way the other person thinks, and saying the other person likes this kind of thing. Well, let's do it because they like it. I may not think it's or whatever, but they like it. So why do we do it for them? Just simply for them.
Mm-hmm.
And
what are some of the ways, Alan, that couples can guard their marriages in these kind of situations? Now, you mentioned, of course, it is important to know what your partner likes and doesn't like, so that you can, give them what they like, not what you want, but what they want. But what are some of the other ways that couples can guard their marriages?
Well, I think I often say how do you spell love, Time, and it's giving time, focused time together where you actually try to understand the other person. Mm-hmm. That's a difficult thing to do, to actually get on a deep level. Like watching a film together, maybe it's holding hands together, watching the film, there's a connection in that, but sometimes you need to actually use words and talking together, looking at each other's eyes and saying things, and even talking about issues in the past that may have not being quite right, and how you deal with those in a not in a you never and I always way, but just not in a point scoring way, because we can get into this kind of spiraling dialogue of negativity that really isn't going anywhere with the thing. It's just going round and round in circles. How do you break that? How do you say, hold on a second, there's certain things that are triggering in my life that might set me off, that I get annoyed with you. And sometimes those issues are in the past.
Yeah.
Past, maybe of past hurts, maybe the way things happen when you're younger. And when things like that come in, they trigger it off and you react, in that way, because something in the past has triggered that. And you have to look at that. And also the other person has to recognize there's issues in your husband or wives that you know about. And they may trigger things off in her or him. And you have to recognize that and care. And how you communicate and how you discuss things better, how you clear those drains that maybe are there, how you support each other. Are you each other's number one fan? That sounds corny, but are you each other's number one fan? Do you believe in each other? Do you kind of think, you are great, you're not perfect? There's one person who was, I think, 50 years married, said when he was asked about his marriage, have you ever thought about divorce? Divorce? Never. Murder, baby. The humanness of it all. And like Diane and myself, we argue, we disagree, we challenge each other, we sharpen each other, and that's all good. It's what you do with those kind of differences and how you work through them. I often say it's not the situation that makes you, it's how you react to it.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier about financial pressures, and it is a big one that marriages struggle with. And particularly you mentioned at the moment now somebody might be after losing their job. And we know that we are in, very different times today than we were 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And there are many couples who are dealing with financial pressures. We only have to open the papers to see how many mortgages are in distress. But, I think sometimes when we are under pressure and we're under stress, we can have a tendency to take it out on our loved ones and maybe say things in a mean way to our husband or a wife that we would never think of speaking in that manner to anybody else. What are some of the ways that we can build a kind of a wall of protection and safety around us in those circumstances?
Well, there was a film that said, I think it said something like, love is never having to say you're sorry. Well, that is not true. It's about saying, I'm sorry, I made a mistake, please forgive me. Asking for forgiveness is something that we all have to do regularly, because we do make mistakes. But the other side of it is receiving that and saying, I forgive you.
Yeah.
There's such healing in that. And how you actually move through that is if it's a very serious situation and, if there's violence and things like that, it does change it a lot on how you deal with violence and things like that. And I really think, and I recommend, when we do our courses, we recommend trained counsellors to actually help you through that. And they guide you through it. They don't fix you or anything like that. They just help and facilitate to draw you through and help you recognise things and help you to deal with it. Now, I had a friend whose wife was physical to him, hurt him, and they saw counselling and they worked through it, and he eventually, they got back together again, and she eventually died of cancer, and he nursed her through that illness. And but then I remember another friend who actually was the bank manager, and his wife was in the choir. She sang angelically, and everything looked like it. They had everything right, and they nearly had everything right, but they got divorced. Love is simply a choice. It's a decision. And marriages, you have to decide, am I going to, keep that connection? Am I going to love this person unconditionally? Or is it just, when it gets tough, I'm just going to say no and go away? And those are hard things.
No,
you have to protect, you have to work, you have to kind of work at your marriage. Like, who goes into a wedding day saying, might work out, may not. We all think our marriage is going to work for life. But we have to work at it. It's work in progress. I have to kind of continue in how I can improve the way I relate to Diana in our marriage. and I don't take it casually. And you have to work at it. You have to maybe do the things like that bring you out of your comfort zone. You might have to give her flowers when you don't think that that's a corny thing to do. Maybe it's the thing to do for, because her love language is presence.
Yeah.
It may be just time, it may be just touch, it may be words of affirmation, but look at those languages. Try to think, go from your mind into her mind, and try and think what she likes, and try and do that for her. That is a powerful connection. That is a powerful way of saying, I love you, and I want to do that for you.
And I know, Alan, to help people to work through that and build those strong foundations, we are over the next 7 weeks going to be looking at different topics. You mentioned them briefly earlier, but just as we come to a conclusion, a brief overview of the topics that we will be covering over the coming weeks in regards to giving people the guidelines and the support to building stronger marriages.
Yeah, well, you need to. Well, look, we all talk about, and particularly in the Bible, it talks about how you build your house on what. So building strong foundations is so important, and how you'd actually do that. What is marriage? We talk about the spring, summer, autumn, winter of marriages. In other words, spring is the time when you just get married, and puppy love.
Mm-hmm.
I must have to say I'm still in puppy love, and I'm 20-something years married. But anyway, then there's the summer, the autumn, and then the winter. We talked a bit about when maybe the children have left the nest, and looking at a new way of relating and growing together. And then we talked a bit about why do marriages break down.
Okay.
This thing of commitment. It's, as I say, it can be a bit of a dirty word, because commitment and consistency are something that we have to work at. It takes hard work. It takes work to actually keep things going. And then maybe looking at taking stock of your marriage. How is it now? And it's only where it is now, and then moving forward from that. So just building strong foundations. Mm-hmm. I often, as I say, give it time to discuss together about yourselves. Maybe not always about the children, just about where you two are together. And that's so important. Sometimes through the tough times, like I lost my job, and I myself, how are we in that? Where are we going in all that? How am I feeling emotionally and things like that? And talking together about that helps to get it out from banging around your head to maybe talking about it to your loved one. And then they can understand you a bit more. Like I was self-employed, and sometimes that means I'm kind of self-maintain, I'm maybe sometimes go into a little cave, and I have to kind of come out of that cave and say that this is where I am.
Yeah.
And that's not, sometimes a lot of guys are like that. And we have to come out and say, look, I feel lousy today because of whatever, And then they can understand, and they can love you better.
Yeah. And I know, as you said, there are a lot that we're going to be covering over the coming weeks. And I know if people want to get in touch, if they have any questions that they'd like us to address, they can contact us here at the station. Give us a call, 4964444, or text 086 7200 931, or you can email us family@lifefm.ie if you have any questions, particularly that you'd like us to put to Alan in regards to any of the topics that we're going to be covering over the coming weeks, Alan. I know you'll be delighted to have some feedback if people do want to get in touch.
Can I end in a poem, The Art of Marriage by Jack Dominion, if that's okay?
Yep.
The Art of Marriage. A good marriage must be created. In the marriage, the little things are big things. It is remembering to say, I love you, at least once a day. It is never going to sleep angry. It is having a mutual sense of values and common objectives. It is standing together and facing the world. It is forming a circle of love that gathers in the whole family. It is speaking words of appreciation and demonstrating gratitude in a thoughtful way. It is having the capacity to forgive and forget. It is giving each other an atmosphere in which each can grow. It is a common search for the good and the beautiful. It is not only marrying the right person, it is being the right partner.
That sums up a lot of what marriage can be. Marriage.
Well, we look forward to hearing more on that. And Alan, if people do want to find out more about the Alpha Marriage course, I know they can go online on the website and check out some details there.
alphacourse.ie.
Alan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today. It was great to have you here for this first session on marriage, and we look forward to the next 7 weeks you're going to be joining us in regards to this Alpha Marriage course, and we've a lot to look forward to.
Thanks, Anna.
Alan, thank you so much. Talk to you next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. And that was Alan Morris from Alpha Ireland. And as I said, it's the start of a new series on marriage. We're going to be covering over the next 7 weeks, as Alan said, building strong foundations, the art of communication, resolving conflict, the power of forgiveness, the impact of family, past, present, huge one I think, good sex and love in action. So yeah, looking forward to those building blocks and putting those in place and helping you to put them in place. We're coming up to the news at the top of the hour here on Life FM 93.1.